Hello, welcome, and welcome back to the United Mates Football Podcast. This is one of your hosts, Keitel, and joining me in LA, as always, from back in our hometown of London, is my co-host, Joe. We've got a special guest on the show with us as well. She's a Bristol Rovers fan, first and foremost, and podcasts about the club on the GasCast podcast. She also blogs about them too over at Step on the Gas. Today's guest is also a founder of Her Game Too, a new campaign run by female football fans to raise awareness of sexist abuse in the game. We welcome Caz May to the United Mates Football Podcast. Caz, it's a pleasure to have you with us. Thanks for being our guest. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me on. And I have to apologise about my voice. I went to Mansfield away on Saturday and there was a lot of singing and we scored, and I think I've just completely screwed it up. But, I'll try my very best to sound normal.
Pleasure to have you with us. What I would give to have an atmosphere like that I could actually use my voice and then lose it in would be nice. Obviously, as an Arsenal fan abroad, I'm not at the Emirates ever, so that actually, quite jealous of that. But Joe, on the day of recording today, your team Spurs are fresh off of a North London derby win in pre-season over my club Arsenal, and that was yesterday that happened. So Joe, how are you doing? How are you feeling ahead of the new season, which will be starting actually the day that this podcast is released on Friday?
Yeah, I'm good, Kai. I mean, I don't really care too much about the pre-season game. Happy Spurs beat Arsenal. Always good to win a North London derby, but I mean, what does it really mean at the end of the day? I'm pretty pessimistic about Spurs at the moment, but it's a nice little glimmer of sunshine on actually a very rainy day in the UK, as always. But Caz, it's a pleasure to have you with us, as Kai said, and what we always do when we start our podcast is we ask our guest an icebreaker question. So we, of course, have one for you. And you are, of course, a Bristol Rovers fan. I know Kai said I'm a Spurs fan. I have some ties to Bristol City. So, bit of rivalry here. But obviously, as a Bristol Rovers fans, you are a gas head. That is what Bristol Rovers fans are known as. And when you kind of think of gas heads, I suppose if you translated that into a sort of more English term, that could be a petrol head. So what we're going to ask you, Caz, is what is your favourite car? But we'll give you some time to think. So I'll answer first, and then I'll ask Kai. But I'll go with a nice Aston Martin. I was having a look at some earlier. Maybe a DB11. They look quite nice. I mean, I don't even have a driving licence, so I'm not that mad on them. But I'll go with that. Kai, how about you? You drive a lot in LA. What would you ideally like to be driving?
Well, there must be something about boys in cars, because I was going to answer Aston Martin as well. I think it's the James Bond thing, isn't it? I don't know if I'm just vicariously, kind of living the life of a secret agent and dreaming of driving an Aston Martin or something, but it's pretty far away from reality, as I drive an '06 Ford Focus out here that is very run down and has nearly 200,000 miles on it. So it gets me from A to Z, A to Z, whatever you want to call it. But Caz, now that you've had a moment to ponder about it, what would your favorite car be?
Do you know what? I was having this conversation with someone the other day. I'm not like a car fanatic at all. Like, I will literally drive anything. I actually prefer the older style cars. I would happily drive around in a banger. Like, I wouldn't care. Like, as long as it gets me wherever I need to go, like, I'll drive it. I even like, that old school, like when you have to wind down the windows manually, and do you know what I mean? Just keep it simple. But yeah, my granddad was really into like retro cars. He used to like collect them. So he'd have like a Rolls Royce and like a Morris Minor, like all those fancy ones. They had like the massive steering wheels, and they had they didn't have seat belts. They were that old. So, like, I like the older ones. So I don't know. You haven't really got an answer there, but I'm not fussy. Basically, I'll happily drive, an old car. I did like Beetles. I used to think they were quite cute. I don't think they're continuing anymore, but I do like a good classic Beetle.
Yeah, the VW Beetle's a good one. Plus, there's that game. Yeah. I don't know if everyone's aware of it, Punch Buggy, where if you're driving along and you've got your mates alongside you or your brothers or whatnot, would have been my brothers in my childhood. You see one of those and you call out Punch Buggy and you get to punch them, which I guess, maybe moving on from violence to a bit more football chat, perhaps. Although before I do jump ahead, my car, I can confess, is one of those ones where you have to manually roll down the windows and you have to also manually lock all of the doors as well. So I'm constantly, after I leave my car, like a minute later, I'll run back and furiously like pull on the door handles to make sure that I've locked it. And I think people think that I'm like breaking into a car, but it's just me just being paranoid. Anyway, on to Bristol Rovers, Caz, and we want to speak a bit about your relationship with that club and sort of how that began in your childhood, in particular. So where did the affiliation come from? Because I think that you have some City fans in your family as well. So how did you become a Bristol Rovers fan?
Yeah, so everyone, whenever I mention that half of my family are City, everyone is just so surprised by it because it is unheard of. So I had the choice growing up as a kid. So I had my mum that was Bristol Rovers and my dad that was Bristol City. And I did try both, I gave them both a fair chance. My dad perhaps made the mistake of taking me to City when I was a little too young. But also what I think about going to your first game is it needs to be a good atmosphere. And I think that is a massive factor about whether you get hooked or not. So my dad took me to a Bristol City game and I think they lost and it was very toxic and it wasn't very nice. And I was like, I hate this. I don't understand what the hype is. And after that, I really didn't like football. Like I hated it. Whenever it was on telly, I was like, turn it off. I want to watch Tracy Beaker instead. Like used to kick off about it. And then my mum was talking about going to the JPT final, which is at the Millennium Stadium in Cardiff, which Rovers got to. And she was talking about it. And I thought, do you know what? Yeah, I'm going to give it another go. So she got me a ticket to that, which she was obviously delighted about because she knew that the atmosphere, everything to do with that game, I was going to get sucked into it because the moment I stepped off that train as a 12-year-old girl, it was just like flooded with blue and white. Everyone was singing, everyone was happy, everyone was in a great mood. I mean, you got to the final, why would anyone be in a bad mood? Everyone was really welcoming to me. I felt like as a 12-year-old girl, I was just one of the adults, I was joining in with I wasn't drinking or anything like that, but I felt like I was really involved and they were like including me and it was just really lovely. And I think the atmosphere for me is what sold it for Bristol Rovers. We didn't even win the game. We didn't need to win the game. It was the fans, I think, for me, which drew me in. And then my poor mum after that, she every day I was like, I want to go to Rovers. When's the next game? Get me a season ticket. When's the next game? And she just would have to take me to every single game. And then we got to the playoff final after that, which we then did win. And then there was no going back after that. I was fully hooked. And yeah, it's made my life a misery ever since. But we keep going.
Yeah, it sounds like Mum, I suppose, won on that occasion, sort of created a monster in the best way in terms of a new Bristol Rovers fan. Do you have any personal history with playing in your childhood, or do you get up to any sort of play and ever kick the ball around these days?
Yeah, so it's funny because when I said I didn't like football as a kid, I liked playing it, but I just didn't like watching it. So I remember in the garden, I used to just kick the football against the wall constantly and pretend I was scoring a goal. I was really young, by the way. This wasn't like last week. I was like, pretend I'd score a goal, like run around the garden, celebrate. And then so when I finally got the opportunity to join an actual team, I was really excited for it, really wanted to play. So I just played for like the local girls side. I always find as a woman in football, it's not as easy as it is for men to find a local team to play for. So you've kind of got to from young ages, it's quite difficult. And then when you find the opportunity, you kind of got to take it up. I really enjoyed it. I played midfield, kind of like the engine of the team, scored a couple goals. I did really enjoy playing. But unfortunately, I didn't go to university or anything like that. So I started full-time work as soon as I left school, really. And from then on, I found it really difficult to get to training and stuff because of the times of it and traveling. I work right in the centre, so I'd have to travel to get to training. I'd always be late and I just found it quite stressful. So couldn't really keep up with it. And I obviously started going to Rovers on my own without mummy by my side. I had my own friends now, and a lot of our days are out drinking on a Saturday. So getting up early on a Sunday to play a game of football was not the easiest thing to do. So unfortunately, I couldn't really keep it up. But I did enjoy it.
Well, it's good you enjoyed it. And I certainly know that feeling, having to wake up early to play football when you're hungover, as I do sometimes on Saturday mornings, I must say. But you obviously, Caz, you told us about, you went to the Johnston Paints Trophy game at Cardiff with your mum when you were 12, which was obviously a great experience. Bristol Rovers didn't win, but you were hooked from that point. And you were playing football in a girls' team as well. But when you were at school with the girls in your classes, were there many other girls at school that also liked football? Were there other girls you could kind of sort of chat about Bristol Rovers with, or just general football?
No, like not at all. It was really difficult in school actually, because a lot of girls just thought I was weird. They didn't get it. They thought that it was strange for a girl to like football. She's getting on with the boys. I didn't really like the fact that I could just talk to the boys about something like in common. So then that would cause a bit of problems. I didn't think there was any. There was a couple of girls who said to me, "Oh yeah, I'd quite like to go." But again, I'm taking them to like Crawley home on a Tuesday night or something. And it's not the same as like when you're a kid and you're just like thrown into that atmosphere. So unfortunately, they didn't really want to continue going. They thought it was all right. I mean, but they didn't get hooked the way I did. I think there's certain factors to things that get people actually involved. Sadly, I didn't really have any girl mates that would go to football with me, but I do now. I didn't go to school with her, but my friend Lucy, I go to every game with her now, and it's great just to have that female companion. But I will say it is rare to find a woman that's so into football like the same way that I am.
Yeah, no, I can understand that. But I guess going back as well to, from the age of 12, it sounds like this is when you started being hooked on football. At what point was it that you were sort of able to see for the first time that being a fan of football as a woman or as a girl, you weren't being treated equally to someone who's a boy or a man supporting a team? When did that first become apparent to you?
I would say from when I was about 14. I mean, it was always obvious that there's a lot more men than women. Anyone could see that. And that's just always been the thing. But I think I never really realized how serious it was literally until the last year, when it started affecting me mentally. And I was like, this is just not right. I'm just trying to watch football. But since the campaign's come about and I've looked back, and I think of all these incidents where I've been a young girl and I've noticed things. So it'll be just walking through the pub and a man will think it's appropriate just to touch you or grab you or say you've got nice tits and things like that. And so there's one time when someone told me I had nice Bristols, which is slang for boobs. And I was only young, and I just thought this is not right. But a lot of the girls would agree with me. We just figured it was the norm, and we just, that's how it is. That's just football. It's a misogynistic culture. We just got to get on with it, kind of thing. I've seen girls walking in front of a crowd, and I've heard "get your tits up" for the lads chants. Everyone's heard that. Get back to the kitchen, all those things. Yeah, we've just sort of accepted it. And a lot of girls would back me on that. It's just something that we kind of just taken as part of being a female football fan. And now we realise actually, why should we? It's not right. But it's been going on for years, and it's everyone's always been aware of it. Just no one's really done anything about it till now.
I'm in a less privileged position in terms of experience, having fortunately been on neither side of that experience, to really comment on it. But I think concentrating on upsetting someone with a chant should be reserved for away fans only. And obviously, when it comes to something that people don't have control over, gender, sexuality, race and whatnot, just leave it out. But we're going to get into the response about the campaign and things like that a bit more later on.
Yeah, we are. We'll talk about it a bit later. But now we've got a game for you, Caz, that we're going to play. Yeah. So hopefully you enjoy this. But essentially, we had a bit of a look at your Twitter, Caz, and we saw that you did a bit of advertising for Bristol Rovers, I think. Looked like you were on an advert in Redland, I think it was, in Bristol. And funnily enough, Keitel and I have both also appeared in advertising. Keitel, and I kid you not, actually appeared in advertising when he was younger with Michael Jordan, arguably the most famous athlete of all time, him and his twin brother. That happened.
Wow.
And, which is pretty cool.
So cool.
And I was in a soft drink advert when I was 6, randomly as well. So there we go. We all have our little bit of advertising. So the game is going to be that I am going to ask both of you questions, and it's effectively going to be questions about footballers who have appeared in adverts, or have they? It's going to be true or false questions. So I'm going to give you one, and you're going to have to work out if it's true or false, and you can both kind of say true or false, and we'll just see who wins at the end. So I've got a few of these. So I will start with the first one, which is Carlos Tevez did some advertising for Cartoon Network. True or false?
I could see it being like Cartoon Network in Argentina that he did some advertising for. So yeah, why not? I'm going to say yes.
Okay, Kai's going true. Kaz, what about you?
False for that, I think. I just can't picture it. I really can't.
Okay, interesting. So we've got true and we've got false. I can reveal that it's true. Carlos Tevez did do some advertising for Cartoon Network, and it's a really weird. He's dancing in a room with nothing behind him. Really weird, really strange. But yeah, it was in sort of he must have. I think Kai's got it spot on. I think he must have been a young Carlos Tevez.
I need to look that up. That sounds hilarious.
Yeah, it's weird. It's very weird. So that's the first one. Now we'll go for number 2, which is Ray Parlour advertising for McCoy's chips. Kaz, how about you? We'll start with you. True or false?
I just feel like why would you make that up? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's so random. But I don't know if it's like a trick question. Like, it might be another brand of crisps. So do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go false again.
False. Okay. Kaz is going false. Kai, what are you going with?
I know for sure he likes a cheeky Cobra beer, but otherwise, when it comes to the crisp, I'm going to say false.
False. Okay, we've got 2 falses, and you're both correct. It's false. Yeah, I did. I don't know why. I just thought Ray Parlour and McCoy's. Why not? Why not put them together? So there we go. Let's move on to the third one, which is Rio Ferdinand doing an advert for Lynx.
Yeah. I reckon true. Yeah.
Kaz has gone straight in with true there. Okay. Kai, what about you? What you say?
Just to make it interesting, I'll say false, because I definitely don't remember it, but it might have happened, yeah. But still false, let's say. Did
it happen? Kai's right again. It didn't happen. It's a shame. I mean, I'd love to have seen the advert, but there we go. It never made it onto our screens. So
I can picture it. So
yeah. There we go. So yeah, Kai's doing well here, but let's see what can happen with this next one. Okay, the next one we've got David Ginola, the ex-Spurs Newcastle player, doing an advert for the bubble gum brand Hubba Bubba. What do you reckon, Kai?
My first inclination was to try to do a David Ginola impression saying Hubba Bubba, but I think for many reasons I shouldn't do that. So, but I think it happened. So yeah, I'm going to say true. Okay, Kai's going true. Kaz, what are you saying here?
Yeah, I was going to go true. It just seems like, again, why would you make it up? You probably have, but, yeah, let's go true.
Yeah, well, it was false. I did make it up. I know you can see I've got too much free time, Kaz, clearly, to make up this stuff. Yeah, I would have loved to have seen it, but no, sadly, it didn't happen.
Your mind is wild.
Right, so we've got a couple more. We'll go with this next one, and it's Kevin Keegan advertising sugar puffs.
No.
Okay. Kaz is not having that. False. What's Kai say?
I'll again just to spice it up. I might as well go with true. I'm ahead by 2, so I'm either going to be ahead by 3 or ahead by 1 after this.
Yeah. This could seal it. I think if Kai gets this. It's true. Yeah. Kevin Keegan. I think it's around the time of his rant. It did a sugar puffs advert, which is it's quite funny. It's worth watching. And then I'll give you guys one more. I think Kai's won, but we'll do one more.
I'm so bad at this.
And the final one, it's actually 2 players. It's Morten Gamps Pedersen and John Arnerisa advertising fruit.
Kind of fruit.
Just fruit in general.
Okay.
All fruit.
Let's say true. I guess they were like, get us a couple of left-footed Norwegians, because that correlates to
Kaz
fruit.
Going true.
Yeah.
Okay, Kaz, what you saying?
I'm going to spice it up, as Kai was saying. I'm going to go false then.
False. Okay. Kai's got it again.
Oh.
It was it's true. And the reason I just said fruit, because I think it's a Norwegian brand, which I couldn't see. But honestly, of all of the true ones I said, you need to watch the Morten Gamst Pedersen and Arne Riise video. It is so strange. They're like lip syncing even. Yeah, very weird, very funny. But yeah, there we go. There's some adverts that footballers advertise for, or stuff I just made up.
Mind blown. I think I got one right, so I'll take that.
There you go. Better than none.
Yeah, I really outdid myself in that one. On the Morten Gamst Pedersen and John Arne Riise video shoot, there must have been a lot of hair gel on set, because those guys, I seem to remember having quite impressive hairdos back in the day. Otherwise, we're going to chat a bit more about Bristol Rovers. And I think historically, or recent history at least, the club was relegated at the end of last season into League Two, but prior years actually sort of came back from non-league, which was kind of a low point. Took a double promotion to League One. That was before the relegation last season. So on last season, I know this new season's just begun, but what in particular, Caz, do you think went wrong last time out?
To be honest, it's difficult because I think you don't know how much of a part not having fans and COVID and all that plays. I know it's not really like an excuse, and I think we probably would have went down anyway, but to finish rock bottom was a bit of a surprise considering our transfer window. I'm not alone in saying that we all thought it was, the best transfer window we'd had for years, but it was just, we brought in so many players who on paper should have done so much better than they did. However, we did have an inexperienced manager in Ben Garner. So they gave Ben Garner the summer transfer window and then only gave him 10 games, and he didn't do he didn't do well, but I've seen worse. And I think he lost 5 in the 5 of those 10, which isn't horrendous. And they sacked him, and you think, well, you've just given this guy a whole summer and he's brought in all of his own players who want to play under him, and you've got rid of him. And then they brought in Paul Tisdale, who I was underwhelmed with when he came in. He's not a fix. He's not going to save us. He did well at Exeter, but he only did well at Exeter. He doesn't really have great experience in League One. Brought in Paul Tisdale, who didn't find us a striker, which we desperately needed in the transfer window. So we went the whole January transfer window, didn't bring in a striker that we needed. He brought in 2 players, didn't help us at all. And then we're stuck then. We know we haven't improved. All the other teams that were battling around us did improve and we didn't. So then it was just a slippery slope. Paul Tisdale was in charge for about, I want to say 17 games. Horrendous record. They sacked him. Brought in Joey Barton, a man that's got a court case hanging over his head. He's now got 2, but we won't go too much into that. A guy that's got a bad reputation, a guy that's really going to divide the fan base. What's he to do? He can't, he can't bring in his own players. He can't work miracles here. They were on a downward spiral anyway. He somehow made us worse. I mean, we just were, we just couldn't buy a win by the end of the season, and finished rock bottom. And to be honest, we deserved to. We were so bad. Obviously, fans weren't there at all, but I watched every game on iFollow, and I just thought, we deserved to go down. And sadly, I think there was a lot of things that played a part. The one time that we did start to gain momentum, we were then hit with COVID. So we had 2 players test positive, and then it was no training, no games for 2 weeks. And then we came back, and then it was just loss. So, plenty of things to consider as to why it went wrong. But ultimately, it was just bad decisions from the very top, I would say.
Yeah, COVID aside, it doesn't sound like the powers that be at the club necessarily set Rovers up for success. And then when they were backed into a corner, they thought, let's play a wild card and hire Joey Barton, which, as he said, we sort of saw how that worked out. He's still there, so we'll see how it carries on in the long term. We might talk a bit more about that in a moment, but sort of diving a bit further back into Rovers history on a more positive note, even the club have had some success in the past, and then there's been certain characters from within their teams of the past that have had kind of larger than life personalities and popularity that has extended beyond the local Bristol fan base. I'm talking about the likes of Ricky Lambert and Ian Holloway in particular. Is there something, in your opinion, special about the culture and the environment around Rovers that sort of allows these cult hero characters to sort of blossom during their time at the club? And is there somebody in and around the first team or the coaching staff these days that's kind of that larger than life character that the fans are really crazy about?
At the moment, not really, no. I mean, the Joey Barton thing is just, isn't it? I mean, he's got 2 court cases over him now, and it just doesn't make for a nice atmosphere at all. But what I will say about Bristol Rovers, and I'm sure it's the case with many other clubs as well, but that you'll get back from them what you give. If you give them 100%, if you play for that shirt, if you show you're committed, and you prove that you've got the passion to win and succeed, then they will back you 100%. If you build that relationship with the supporters, you will get that support back. And we've always had managers that divide the fan base. And in terms of like having a connection with the fans, in my time, the biggest person I've seen that's built such a strong relationship with the fan base is Daryl Clark, the guy that got us 2 back-to-back promotions. He did send us down initially, but it was out of his control. He just took over from John Wood, and he had a gig at Salisbury, but in the Football League, he'd never been a manager before. But to be honest, he's not the most experienced man in the world, but he built a team spirit and an atmosphere at the club that I've never seen before, like anywhere. And I'm totally in love with the guy. I just think if we had the opportunity to grab him back, I'd in a heartbeat. And so many Rovers fans do the same thing. He just got it. He got the fan base, and the fans got him. And it was just like a love that you won't get anywhere else between like a manager and a fan base. And it was just so wonderful to see. And every time he walked across that pitch, the noise that came from behind that goal under that roof, just like, it sends like shivers down my spine. It gives me chills. It's just like, what he managed to achieve. I mean, he was bringing in players in the conference that were personal trainers in their day jobs, and not, he didn't really have the biggest budget. He didn't bring in the best of players, but what he managed to bring out of them, and he got them to play at their very best, and he got them to play with a heart on their sleeve every game and give 110% every game. And that's all you really ask. You don't necessarily need the best players in the world. If you could create that team spirit within that squad, there's no wonder we got back-to-back promotions with him, because the players loved him, the fans loved him, the atmosphere he created. We all look back on it now and we kill for it. We absolutely kill for it right now, because it's not the same since he left. And I'm hoping that one day we'll get someone in. I don't think Joey Barton's going to be that man, unfortunately, because he's just got too much baggage. But I'm hoping that we'll get someone who has that sort of influence on our club soon, because it's just amazing.
Well, maybe you can go to Port Vale and do a little swap deal, Barton for Clark. Maybe that will happen, and maybe we'll see. But Caz, you were obviously at Mansfield for the first game of the season, and I know it didn't go to plan in that Bristol Rovers lost in the 96th minutes. All sounds very gutting. There was a red card as well for Rovers, I know. But I guess, look, it wasn't a good start, but taking that aside, I guess also having been to the game, this will inform your opinion, but what are you hoping for Bristol Rovers this year? Is it a case of you need to get back to League One immediately, or is there more realistic aims? What is a good season for Rovers this year, in your opinion?
I think we should be pushing up there. I think there's no excuse for it. I mean, they've got themselves into this mess. They need to sort it out. We want to see progression. So absolutely, we need to be top 6, challenging top 6 all season. Sadly, I think there's a lot of factors that will stop us from doing that, such as Joey Barton's court case. I've mentioned it 3 times now, I'm so sorry. But it's no good having a manager having 2 court cases over his head. I mean, that's not going to be any good for team spirit, no good for morale. If he goes down in December, we're going to have to get someone else in, and he's got his own players in, much like Ben Garner did last year. So, how's that going to affect our season? thankfully, if it all goes to plan, and it does, and it doesn't happen, then great. But if it does happen, it'll be before January, and we can hopefully, Rovers in their mind are thinking, if the worst case scenario happens in December, they've got someone in mind lined up, hopefully. But yeah, so I think that's going to set us back massively, unfortunately. And I'm not surprised there's a red card on Saturday. It's Joey Barton. Like I always said before we even got Joey in, I enjoyed playing against Joey Barton's side. I do think he plays good football, but these players bring out their nasty side under Joey Barton. He's just that kind of person. Like, he's a very physical type of player. He always was. And, it's not the best having our captain. He's just been given the armband and he gets sent off. Great. Leading by example. Brilliant. I think it's a big ask to go back at the first attempt. So for me, I could see us just losing out, maybe 10th finish. I want to see us challenge. I want to see us up there. If we don't finish top half of that table, then it's a failure. That's great.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with you. I mean, like you said, you'd like to think that Bristol Rovers will, give it a proper crack and, at least get playoffs, but maybe at very worst top 10 and then go again next year. But I guess I know he's been brought up a bit, but it's hard not to mention your manager, Joey Barton, at the moment. Like you said, 2 court cases, assault charges, all sorts of nasty stuff going on, awful things that he's allegedly done. What does the Bristol Rovers fan base feel about this? Do people want him just gone immediately now and just to start again with someone else? What is the general feeling amongst the fan base about Joey Barton?
So divided. It's so split. I'm not even kidding. When we did a poll on our GasCast Twitter page, just say, are you Barton in, suspend him or sack him? And it was 30%, 30%, 30%. Like, just completely, like, I've never seen division like it in a fan base. It's like completely split. I would say, no one knows really what the solution is right now. Can you sack an innocent man if he's found to be innocent? Can you sack him? Can Joey Barton then come back at the club if they do and he found it innocent? Like, there's so many rules around it, and I don't know what the contract says, and it's all very legal and I don't know what they're meant to do. I do feel for the club in this situation because they're not going to win with whatever they do. If they sack him, they're not going to win. If they suspend him, they're not going to win. And if they keep him, they're not going to win. So they've said if he's found guilty, they'll sack him. That's the right thing. I mean, they cannot keep him on if he's found guilty. And I think that's fair. Yes, it's not very nice, and there are fans that aren't going, and they've said they will not go until he's out of this club or until the court case is concluded, which is really sad. I mean, they shouldn't have to make that decision, but fortunately the club have decided to appoint Joey in the first place, knowing that he had that court case over him. They knew it was a risk, and they're going to have to deal with it. If he's found guilty, they're going to have to do the right thing and sack him, which I fully trust that they would do. For me personally, I'm just keeping an open mind about it all right now because it's not set in stone. It's not concluded. You never know what's going to come of it. And I'm not going to let it impact my love for the game and my love for my club. It's one man, it's my club, it's not his. And I've been waiting 17 months to go back to see my club again. And for me as well, how much I've missed it, I just think, am I going to let something that's not concluded, that's impending, stop me from going to support my team? There's so many people that I love at this club, so many of those players I've done podcasts with, and I love them, and there's so many people that I miss in the fan base I want to see again. It's community, and for me personally, it doesn't stop me, but I understand why people don't want to go to. I'm not going to judge anyone for not going, but I'm also not going to judge anyone for going. I think it's a personal choice, and everyone needs to do what they feel comfortable with. And that's the latest situation.
No, I think that was well said. And like you said, you're ultimately, you're a Bristol Rovers fan. You're part of a strong community of fans. You're not a fan of Joey Barton, and that's still all to play out. Perhaps, like you said earlier as well, perhaps in hindsight, maybe he shouldn't have been appointed in the first place, but that's happened now. And I guess we will all just wait and see what happens on the Joey Barton front. But then let's talk a bit about Her Game 2 now, which is something that you're, of course, a founder of. And that is obviously a campaign with the aim of fostering ethos in football, in which women are welcomed and respected equally. Look, this is clearly a very important issue for you and your fellow co-founders or the people in the team. What, for you, is success for Her Game 2?
So the main thing is just to keep raising awareness of it. And what we want to do ultimately is to build a safe space at football for female supporters. It's all based on our own experiences and how we felt with it, and talking to other female fans and hearing what they've had to say. And it shouldn't be allowed. I look at young girls that come to Rovers and I think they're going to grow up into this toxic atmosphere. They might not have skin as thick as mine. I mean, like, I've had wobbles, of course. I mean, everyone does. But ultimately, I think I have dealt with a lot of stuff that's been thrown my way, and I think I've dealt with it quite well, considering what people say and what people do. But there are people that are much more vulnerable than me, and I don't want any women to feel. I've seen it. I've seen girls say they're not going back because of things, and I don't want any woman to feel like that. It's a game. Like, it's a game and it's a club. And I think if I ever lost Bristol Rovers, like, I would lose part of me. And I think, why should anyone be void of that love for a club because someone's been telling them they don't belong there and they don't deserve to be there? So success for me would be getting the football clubs on board with us, getting as many allies, men and women that go to football behind us, supporting us, looking out for their female supporters, and together building that safe environment with these clubs. I mean, I've been so many emails, so many meetings, just like trying to see what we can do. And a lot of them have been fantastic and saying they support it, and setting up ways in which women can safely and anonymously report abuse that they've had at the game. So if they're getting any harassment at the game, or someone's trying to touch them or do things that make them feel uncomfortable, they can text a number, they can call a number, they can say, I'm in seat G, row 9 or something. Some guys just won't leave me alone, and then the guy will be thrown out or dealt with in some sort of way. And if we can build that atmosphere, then hopefully we'll see more women going to games in the future and feeling comfortable going to games in the future. And maybe some women who don't go at the moment will return. And I want to see less of that, like, male to female ratio. I want to see it more evened out. So if I've done that, if it takes 2 years, if it takes 5 years, if it takes 10 years, as long as that happens, then we've done our job, is what I think.
Brilliant. That's a great answer. And look, I've gone to football with my mum and my sister for years. I know Keitel, back when he was in London at Arsenal, always went with his mum. Like, we want, women and men to have the same experience at a game and enjoy it the same way. So yeah, we fully support it. But one of the things you were mentioning was also, partnering with clubs. And I can see already that, you've got links with Tranmere Rovers, with Bristol Rovers, of course, with a few other teams in kind of non-league as well, and a few women's teams. So going forward, is this something you're very much keen to partner with as many clubs that will kind of want to be involved? Is that the plan?
Yeah, I mean, I've contacted them all. I've been a very busy girl. As many as possible. I think it's so important. I think the amount of girls, I mean, we did a survey, and there's so many different clubs that are mentioned in the survey. I've been to Southend, I've been to Spurs, I've been to Chelsea, and it's like, it's an issue that's like the same across all of the Football League and the Premier League. It's a universal issue, really. If we could get as many clubs behind it as possible, then we're helping out as many female fans as possible. So yes, it's hard work, and it's a lot for us to do, to have these constant meetings and phone calls and trying to convince people that, this, I mean, I say convince, a lot of these clubs have been like fully behind it. They've been absolutely brilliant. Bristol Rovers were one of the first. Gateshead FC, who are in the National League, were absolutely brilliant. Forest Green Rovers, who haven't announced yet, but they sent me a massive email about what they want to do to help out. And I just think it's clubs like this that are setting an example, and it's just really lovely to see. We've got a few more due to announce. Obviously, they all want to do it in their own unique ways, and which is fantastic. Some want to dedicate a fixture to her game 2, some want to put perimeter boards up, some want to put posters up, but the main thing is they're all making this pledge, and we need as many clubs as possible to make this pledge against sexist abuse. Obviously we've got Kick It Out campaign, which do a brilliant job against racism, and I think that's been really effective. You don't see it still happens sadly, but you don't see it as much. People getting banned for being racist, people getting threatened to, not be able to return to their clubs. And that's where the power is. The power is with these football clubs, because if they say you carry on discriminating, then you won't be welcome back. And that's where these trolls will then step back and say it's not worth it, because their love for the game will overpower any stupid comment that they might make. They won't want to lose their club. They won't want to lose their social out with their friends. So if they're told that they can't go back because they're being they're discriminating against someone, then it's going to work, isn't it? And it's going to stop them from doing it. And they might still think it. You could never change some people's minds, unfortunately. They're Neanderthals, like, sadly. You can't change their mind. So yeah, it's that's the main aim, is to get people to pledge and get clubs to take action against this sort of behaviour.
Yeah, it's amazing work that you're doing, and it's exciting that you've got these, numerous clubs in the background waiting to sort of formally announce their pledge to the campaign. Couldn't agree more. Just the necessity for it in the first place. Curious to know what the response outside of those partnerships that you've tried to negotiate has been, just in general. Maybe on Twitter, obviously, is a pretty active place for these things. Have you, obviously, I would only assume, received great response from the women on Twitter, but what's the response from men been like in general? Have you received some backlash? Has this sort of changed your life quite a lot since the Her Game 2 campaign has begun?
Yeah, unfortunately, my mental health has taken a bit of a battering because of it, but someone had to do it. So if it's to be anyone, I'm kind of glad it is me, because like I said earlier, if it's someone a bit more vulnerable, then things can go very badly. And yeah, my main worry about the backlash that we've received, I will stress a lot of it's very positive. Like I've been very overwhelmed by the response, really. I just did it. I just thought, I'm just going to do it. Just see what happens. Just go for it. Post it. FA Cup final day, let's go. And then for us to go second trending on FA Cup final day when we first posted the video, and to get 1 million views in 24 hours was beyond anything we ever expected. And yeah, it was hard. I did have a lot of nice comments, but it did get to the point where I stopped reading the quote tweets, because there was a lot of horrible comments, because there always is with this sort of thing. A lot of people saying it doesn't happen. A lot of people saying, I've probably had abuse probably every other day, if not every day, from it, which is tiring, exhausting. I had a Bristol City fan today who was he was raging, and I don't know why. I didn't say anything. It was actually Leah, who's one of the co-founders of the campaign, sort of quoted an incident at Bristol City where a woman got spiked. I don't know if you saw it, but obviously quite a bad incident. We were tagged, our Twitter page was tagged in it, and said, oh, can you raise awareness of this issue? Of course, we're about safety of females in football, and a female has been targeted at the football. So there is like a relevancy with it. And we've been asked to raise awareness. So if we ignored it, then people would be like, why are you ignoring this? This is quite a big thing. So Leah has put out a tweet, and this guy has responded saying that it's really crass that we're using that incident to promote ourselves. And he started going off, and he tagged me in it and was like, oh, Caz is trying to get famous, and these Insta model wannabes, and just started going off on one. Anyway, I didn't retaliate, because I've started to think in my mind, I don't have time for these people. So I just blocked him. But that blocking then spurred him on to continue. And I know people are looking out for me when they tell me about things. They are just looking out for me. Oh, by the way, he's saying this, he's saying that. He didn't take well to me blocking him. So now he's gone off, on one about saying that I'm stealing the profits from Her Game 2, which is not true. It's not even I don't make the merchandise. I don't take any money. It's Hope and Glory Sportswear, who are a trusted company, have offered to make Her Game 2 merchandise, and has offered to donate the profits to charity, which they have done. I've selected 2 charities, and we split the profits so far evenly between those 2. But again, I'm being accused of stealing the profits. He's called me a compulsive liar. I don't know what I've lied about, but and then he's saying that he started mentioning my private life, which is he started mentioning my relationship and saying that, oh, you don't see her boyfriend on Twitter. Oh, that's because she wants men to think she's single so she can like take the profits, and like it's a marketing thing, and also accused us of making up the survey results and all of the results we've got from these survey from these girls. I mean, we spent ages finding these fans and saying, please, can you do this for us? And girls have come out and admitted that some of the responses were from them. So to accuse us of that, and me specifically, is tiring, is damaging, because people do unfortunately read things online and just believe what they hear. And I've obviously got that anxiety and that fear that someone is going to believe it. And I'm there trying to justify myself and tagging in the charities that we've donated to. And I'm like, I didn't want to have to, I didn't feel the need to say, oh, by the way, we've donated to these charities. As long as the charities know that they've got the funds, then, that's all I care about. But unfortunately, once again, I'm having to justify it. And it's tiring. I think people just don't agree with the campaign. They have a misogynistic side to them, and they're trying their very best to drag it down in the best way possible. And that's what's sad. And that's what I found with a lot of the trolls, is it's a sudden hate for me because I've started this campaign. They think I've done it for attention, which is really boring, because if I did it for attention, I wouldn't have got the other girls on board, and I wouldn't be championing other women like I am at the moment. I'm retweeting girls, I'm trying to get their stories, and I'm putting them up on the website, and I'm getting other girls involved. It's not just about me at all. I feel so passionate about this. It's from a personal experience. And I just think if people are saying, I'm not genuine about it, it's really hurtful. It really is. But I know I can't escape it, and it's going to keep happening. Unfortunately, the bigger this campaign gets, it's just going to keep happening. So I've just got to develop a thick skin. I think I'm going to have a break from Twitter for a few days just to focus on. I've got a full-time job. I need to focus on that, and I need to focus on talking to these clubs and just stay away from the trolls that really don't matter. They really don't. Yes, well done. You've hurt me. You've upset me. What more do you want? Congratulations. Do you want a medal? It's done. Sorry, little rant there, but it's off my chest now. It's done.
No, it sounds exhausting. And then, of course, you mentioned a full-time job on top of that, and people really do quite easily forget on the cyberspace of Twitter and whatnot that people have their own lives, and that we're all human beings, and that it's not okay to just say what you think. And ironically, the people who are accusing you of attention sort of stealing, or when they make these tweets themselves, that is a cry for attention in and of itself. So it's kind of just this sad cycle. It's also sad to see sort of the toxicity that can exist in football Twitter and sort of that football social space, because you can see the positive side of it. For instance, here today, football being the thing that's brought the three of us together to have this conversation. But then, of course, there is that darker side of it. So I guess, what you're doing is very impressive and very, noble. Sort of sounds condescending, but I genuinely mean that is you're fighting a good fight. And you mentioned kick it out with racism, and of course there's been campaigns like Rainbow Laces and stuff, and I genuinely do see this Her Game 2 movement as something right up there that needs to make it to all of the ends of football at every level, and it's so important. So thankfully you do have a thicker skin than most, because it does sound genuinely tiring putting up with this. But what do you think could be done to help you? I know you said you're considering taking a break from social media. We've seen there was the blackout on social media to stand up against racism and racist abuse online. Does the same thing need to happen to promote this issue with sexism? And does Twitter and these social media platforms need to ban people who, racist abuse is one thing, but at the end of the day, it's not okay to be sexist either. Do people need to be banned?
Yeah, I think it all falls under the same umbrella, doesn't it? Sexism, racism, homophobic abuse, this discrimination against something that people can't control. I think all forms of discrimination should be dealt with. But unfortunately, Twitter is a big platform. They're not introducing the ID side of things, which I think is a great idea. because I find, again, like with this guy earlier, no profile picture, no name. Like it's easy for someone just to make a fake account and say what they want. And I would love for Twitter to do something about it, but unfortunately they just don't seem to be listening. So I just think, you know, the power, what I found at the moment is I've been calling a lot of stuff out lately, and a lot of my friends tell me to stop doing it. But with one that I had the other day, which again was just, you know, someone I don't know, he's angry because Bristol Rovers have put Her Game 2 mugs in the club shop and are saying they're donating it to grassroots women's football, any profits to grassroots women's football. What's the issue with that? I mean, it's insane. But again, someone quoted it and used it as a personal attack on me. So I called it out, and obviously people saw it, didn't agree with what he'd said, and piled in on him basically, and he got everything that he deserved. It was just a lot of people saying you're out of order, like what's the matter with you? And you know, he was biting back at a few people, but then he must have got so overwhelmed with the amount of messages he was getting that he then put himself on private and deleted the tweet. So I think you know, a lot of people say don't call it out, but at the same time, when you do and people respond in that way and tell this person, actually, what, you know, I don't find it funny, I don't think what you're saying is cool, and he sees actually what he said is not getting the response that he wanted, they then tend to backtrack. So I think yeah, a lot of people need to start calling out this behavior for what it is. And a lot of people, sadly, in this day and age, are writing these things for likes, for retweets, to make people laugh. And when they see people aren't laughing anymore, that's when they stop doing it. So if Twitter, I mean, it's sad they're not doing it. I hope that we could keep pushing and we could keep asking for it, and we could keep fighting for Twitter to introduce something to stop these anonymous accounts. But if they're not, then I think we should just do it ourselves, you know, build an army against these people, call it out, tell them that it's just not funny and it's not cool, and you know, it will then hopefully stop. But you know, at the moment it's just kind of like I just have to keep a thick skin, try and ignore them and focus on the people that do support me and that are there for me, and you know, don't hate me.
Well, fortunately, I know there's a lot of trolls on the internet, but there's been such a positive response to Her Game 2, and that you got 2 fans here on this podcast. I know it's not many, but there's 2 here, and there's plenty more, I'm sure. But that is where we are going to end today. As always, thank you to my co-host Keitel, and then a massive thank you to Caz as well. It has really been a pleasure speaking to you about even Bristol Rovers, I should say, but also Her Game 2 as well. Caz, how can our listeners best follow you and everything you're doing at Her Game 2?
So we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, and we're on Facebook. It's just at Her Game 2. You should find it fairly easy. And also there's a website, hergame2.co.uk, which has all the links to all our socials, some lovely blog posts on there written by some female fans from their perspective. Yeah, it's just like, yeah, if you look us up, then it's got everything all about us on there. So would really appreciate any support from anyone. Obviously we get a lot of grief, so any kind words are just so appreciated, like you wouldn't believe. And thank you guys for having me on today. I've really enjoyed this. It's been therapeutic. It's been nice to vent and get things off my chest, but again, like you said, it's nice to meet fellow football fans from across the globe, and yeah, it's great to build that connection with you guys, so thank you.
Thank you very much, Caz. And yeah, anytime you feel like venting, we'll be here if you want to be a guest on the show. Otherwise, good luck with everything else that you've got going on. Best of luck with Her Game 2. Hopefully people will give you a break with these crazy conspiracy theories about you embezzling from the campaign that are just nonsense. So otherwise, for our listeners, if you've enjoyed this podcast, please do give us a follow, give us a like, a subscribe. You can find us on your favorite podcast streaming platform. Just look for United Mates Football Podcast. Same for our YouTube channel as well. And then across social media, we're at United Mates FP for Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Check out the website. That's www.unitedmatesfp.com. Until next time, everyone, though, take care of yourselves and take care of each other. Goodbye.